We have a thriving environment in the UAE at the moment with lots of businesses moving here. Now, when I see some of the joint venture and shareholder agreements, I'm actually shocked at the quality of the arbitration clauses that there are in. I've talked in previous videos about mediation, but mediation is a non-binding process. So if a dispute does escalate, you would need to go to arbitration if it's a very high value matter and you've agreed to arbitration in the contract. Now, there have been significant changes in the arbitration provisions in the UAE law. And the one thing I do want to point out is there's been more than 375 arbitration cases filed last year in the Dubai International Arbitration Center, which took over from the maritime arbitration and from the DIFC LCIA arbitration, which were abolished some time ago. Some of the clauses and agreements have not been updated to reflect these changes in the arbitration law and the way arbitration is run in the UAE. And therefore, when there is a dispute, it's completely open to interpretation how you're going to run the arbitration, which isn't really good if you're already in a dispute, because that means you're probably going to have a dispute about how you run any sort of dispute resolution. So I always advocate to have a very clear arbitration clause. It needs to say where you're going to arbitrate, who's going to appoint the arbitrators, what their qualifications might be. You could even have, say, the ICC or the International Chamber of Commerce run your arbitration and appoint arbitrators under their rules. And then you also need to be very, very clear as to how many arbitrators you want. Do you want one arbitrator? Do you want three arbitrators? Arbitration can be quite expensive, so generally, unless it's a very high value and a complex dispute, I would personally suggest going with one arbitrator, but obviously the more common practice is to have three arbitrators. There are some more interesting developments under the changes to the UAE arbitration law, and that is the arbitrators do not necessarily have to rely on oral hearings. They can actually read memoranda that has been filed and case papers that have been filed under the arbitration. And also there is a move to a lot of online arbitration, which is great because it means you can access arbitration in the UAE even if you're not based in the UAE, and if you chose UAE as an appropriate forum and the Dubai International Arbitration Center rules as the rules of your arbitration. So yes, sometimes disputes do escalate. You have no choice but to go for dispute resolution. Arbitration is a good forum for, complex and high value disputes, and you need to be aware of the changes to the law. You need to be aware of drafting a good solid arbitration clause so that you're not hard done by if you end up in a dispute.